Howdy, howdy. I'm gonna get everything set up real quick. Of course, for some reason, it's deciding not to show Krita, even though I have it open. Let me just make a canvas real quick here. Maybe this'll help. Come on, show Krita. I need you to show Krita, please. Fucking... OBS. Please, OBS, I beg of you. Dude, OBS, you gotta be kidding me right now. Hold on. Maybe... any full screen application? Why is this not working? Oh. Come on. Come on, Krita. Krita, dude, we gotta... Come on! Why is this not popping up, dude? I'm gonna crash the fuck out. Oh my god. Well, I have never had a problem with this happening before. Why is my Krita just not showing up? Come on, maybe if I draw a little bit on there, it'll show up? No, of course not! That'd be too easy. Oh god. Hold on, y'all. Let's try this. I know there was a way I did it last time. Maybe I just have to go capture any... No... I know there's a way I did this before. Let's hide my game capture. Let's add... I think I might just have to do a... window capture. Let's try this. Oh god. What the fuck? Why is it popping up my entire OBS? I did not set that. I set that to Krita. Oh my god, dude. That's not Krita. That's not even Krita. Okay. What the fuck, dude? Anything but working the first time I try it, I swear to god. I have never had a problem with this happening. Why today? Oh, now it's working. Okay, of course. All I have to do is complain and it decides to work. Okay, y'all. So we are going to be... First of all, I gotta pick out which one of my friend's characters I actually want to draw. Because she's got a few of them that she says are underappreciated that I want to give the spotlight to. So, it'll be just a second here and then we'll actually get started. One second, y'all. Alright. So, we got 3 to choose from. I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna pick whichever one I want to draw. I think I have found the one I want to draw, so I'm gonna make the canvas just a lot larger. I completely forgot I was just fucking around and drawing there. So, this right here is the character of my friends that I'm going to be drawing today. I'm gonna scale that down, stick it right over here. So this is gonna be a revenge for my friend who drew one of my characters. I will get my drawing tablet out of my desk. Alright. Drawing tablet's out of my desk. And my friend did some very high effort art for me, so I want to make this one good too. She is my #1 priority for revenging because she gave me some really high quality art for her character. So let me see, let me ask, I might have to ask her... Okay. So I'm gonna start out, first of all, I'm just going to make a layer for general posing. This is gonna take me a second here real quick. Sorry, y'all. I'm also waiting on my friend to answer because I was asking her what instrument this character plays and stuff like that. Because I want to make sure I can get some cool shit. Okay, I got the answer about the body type. I just need to wait for answer about what instrument. Drum kit, alright. Okay, let me find a good pose of someone sitting at a drum kit. I know my friend gave me a website a few days ago that was pretty good for posing stuff. So let me find the posing website. It'll be just a second. Okay, here's the website. So I'm gonna see if I could find someone of someone sitting at like a drum kit. I don't think there will be one, but let me find a good one here. Let's see. One second. Sorry for how long this has taken, y'all. It'll be just a second while I figure this out. Okay, I'm gonna do that. Going to stick that into here just so I can get a good thing drawn out here. One second. Sorry, sorry for all the delay, y'all. This is gonna take me a good second. Okay, there we go. So, I think the pose I'm generally gonna go with, I think I'm going to have there be like, I don't know, a stool slash seat of some sort down here. I'll draw the stool and stuff better, obviously, but like, I don't know, seat like that. And then I'm gonna go swap to a different color here for the actual posing. And I think for the actual posing, I'm going to start with the head here. I think I want to make the character be looking kind of off to the side a little bit, like, oh my goodness, not like that. Because the character is a fox, so I want to have the snout be a bit sharper, kind of like that. Large ears, like shown in the reference. And then I think I want to have the rest of the pose be like, kind of just sitting. I think I want probably to have like one arm be kind of just like that, I guess, and have the other be maybe like over or underneath the other one, so the arms are kind of crossed like this. And the hands will be like, you know, like just kind of chilling position, kind of like that. And then I think, obviously, you know, rest of the body, I'll figure that out in a bit here. So something like, I don't know, sitting like that. A bit like that would be good. Obviously, I need to scale the stool down with what I'm doing here, but let me just put something like that. A bit like that. The other leg can go out a bit further. Obviously, a very crude and rough sketch, but I think some kind of pose like that would probably be pretty good. So let me save this as a Krita file so I can make sure I don't, you know, not save. That would be bad. I've got that saved, so I'm going to start first of all by getting this stool probably scaled down to be more of a reasonable proportion. Something like that, I think, would probably be good. And then, obviously, you know, in front of her will be a drum set and stuff like that, but I'm going to, after doing that, turn down the transparency on there and on there. And then I'm going to start with some of the finer lines. Because I like drawing the head especially first. So let me see. Yeah, she's got a bit of face fluff off the side there, so just like a bit of fluff like that going down. And then I think back here having a bit more of it going upward like that would be good. And then, thankfully, that hairstyle is pretty conducive to my art style, so I can have the hair going over, like, I can either have the hair going over like this. I think I might actually just put it the way it is in the reference and tough it out and actually draw the other eye. Or do I have to? Yeah, I think with the hairstyle she's got, that would probably be the best way to do it. But I'm gonna, you know, this obviously isn't the final lines, but I'm going to do something like that. A little bit of a smile. With the tooth sticking out at the side there. Let's see. She's got piercings in the ears, so that's gonna be something I have to remember. The hair is kind of just a fluffy, kind of side-pushed style, so something kind of like... How far down does that go? Pretty far down, almost to the snout on that side. So I think I'll actually bend it a little more this way. Something like that. Yeah, a bit like that, because she does have a beanie on. So that's going to be important to make sure. But it looks like both ears are coming out of the beanie itself. I think that... Is that earrings or something? I can't quite tell. I might have to ask. I think that might be a hood. It looks like a hood. I'm going to make the hair a bit poofier. Yeah, something like that. That looks a bit more like what is on the reference. And then the ears are pretty large. So I'm gonna put one about here. Actually, foxes have sharper ears, so I'm gonna go something a little bit, nah. Not quite. Something a little sharper. Oh, I think this is close to what I want. That might work. But hers are kind of triangular, so I think I want to go for a little bit of a... The perspective is hard, but I think something a little bit like that might be our best bet. That looks about right. And then the beanie goes pretty much over the top of the head, it looks like. So, like, right about over here. Something like that, I think, is where the beanie is going to be going, because it goes behind the fluff. So, having it be a bit like this. I think that looks about accurate. And I think I'll actually fluff up the hair some more up here, just because the hairstyle does cover one of the eyes completely, so I'm going to do that. And the hair seems to kind of blend with the fur, so I'm going to have a little bit more of it sticking out, like, right over here, too. A bit messier, some of it sticking onto the other side of the snout like that, but for the most part, I think that looks pretty clean for the head. And because she does have a beanie on, it's going to be pretty easy for me to extend the rest of this over to, like, that, I think. Maybe, not quite. Something a little bit like that. That looks better. Because I ended up drawing her facing more towards the side. And then her beanie is just kinda... It's a beanie. So I gotta just kinda have it be like... not quite. I don't really know how to draw beanies too well, so I might just kinda go like... No, that's a little... It looks a little too full. So let me, like... Something like that. I think that looks alright. I'm sure I'll go back and refine it again some more, but for now, at least, that looks pretty good. And then for the other side ear... That looks pretty darn good, at least for now. Let me turn off that. Yeah, that looks pretty damn good. Okay. So I'm gonna adjust that a little bit. And then, so it looks like, yeah, that's probably a hoodie that she's got on, because I see she's got longer hair in the back, which I will do eventually, but not now. Looks like different fur colors are important for her. Got the nose on the snout already. Let's see. Ripped jeans. Yeah, definitely a hoodie that she's got on with a crop top underneath. Character permission says she does wear a binder usually, but when I asked my friend, she did say that was a little bit outdated. So I'm gonna go with, like, moderate chest size, probably. Nothing too, you know, crazy. I think something... That should be alright. I might have to do some readjusting because the character is chubby, so... Let's take this... Rotate that... Something more like that. I think that's pretty good. These are obviously not the final lines, so... I'm drawing everything underneath the hoodie first, such as the crop top and stuff. So I think that would peak right about there. And not quite like that. It's a little just hard. The perspective that I've given myself here is a little bit hard to do. And then... No, I didn't quite get that right. I gotta redo that. So, because she is a chubbier build, so... I think I'll actually start just by outlining, I think, roughly where I want, like, the stomach to sit, which will probably be, like, right about... there-ish, I think, is where I want the stomach to sit. So, since my friend said that she's got a moderate kind of chest size, I think I will go work off of that, probably from, like, maybe there-ish, because she's got, like, moderate chest size, broader build. So I think, like... the perspective is throwing me off, that's the issue. Because I know that... I think I want the chest to go down to, like, right about here. But, like, I don't know... because that just doesn't feel right with the perspective, because she's facing this way. But then I think it'll feel more right if I get the other side drawn properly. Yeah, I feel like that looks a lot better. I think I might just have to move this over a little bit, like to about there. Okay, yeah, that feels a lot more realistic. I think I got it that time. And then, because she is wearing a crop top and is sitting down, that does mean that I'm going to have to draw her stomach over part of her lap. I just have to make sure that I get the general... Again, it doesn't have to be anything pretty yet, but I do want to get the general shape and stuff down. I think the stomach needs to go down a bit further. So I think selecting that, bringing it down a little bit will help a lot. Yeah, once again, I'll refine all this more carefully. But I think that's pretty good for the proportions for now. Maybe scale up this size a bit. Something like that, just to match the other side more closely. I think that's pretty accurate. Next thing, her outfit. So she's got a crop top on. And it looks like it's got a lower cut to the neck, so I'm gonna go a bit like that. Probably is a good cut for it. That's what it looks like to me, at least, because I do see her neck is exposed and stuff. So I'm going to... that looks about right for the neck size. At least I think it does. I don't know how tall she is, but it's not really gonna matter for this. Alright. I think I gotta make the shoulders a little narrower. Not quite like that. I think I gotta point the shoulders downwards a little more is the big thing here. I'll draw the arms later. For now, though, so that's the undershirt, and I think the cutoff for it, judging by the oh, I did not mean to pull that up. Judging by the fact that, so it looks like just the lower bit of her stomach is exposed, so I think the crop top's gonna cut probably right about, like, here-ish. Once again, very rough. But, that means the navel's gonna be probably, like, right about there-ish. Again, nothing pretty yet. Okay, got that. The legs, I think I'll just keep the same pose that I have for these. I'll just obviously have to adjust it to her proportions. Such as one leg sitting out like this. And then her hands are going to be, like, right there, so it doesn't really matter how well I do the actual, like, space between the legs. Plus, she has, like, jeans, or not jeans, but ripped jeans, I think, actually, and a belt on. And I think the belt might be visible towards the side, like over here or something like that. Again, finer detail, I'll figure it out later on. But first of all, first things first is going to just be sorting out how the legs are going to look here. And then it looks like she does have shoes on. Kind of surprising for an anthropomorphic character to actually see shoes on the character, but... I'm not complaining, because I'm not the best at drawing paws. So I'm gonna, for now, just put, you know, crude, shoe-shaped shapes in there. I'll make them a little smaller, just because I don't think they're that large. So yeah, something along the shape of, like, I don't know, that. It doesn't matter right now. And then her other leg is gonna come out right over here. Something like that. Not quite. Because that means that her back is gonna come down like this. So her other leg is gonna be more like over here, I think. Yeah, that's how anatomy works. Okay. Completely threw me off for a second, because I was like, wait. It's like, that doesn't connect right. But then that comes down to roughly the same spot. Same kind of thing. I'll draw a rough, like, shoe shape kind of thing in there. And then if I turn that layer off, that does look pretty good for the posing. So now I'm going to make a new layer for the arms. The arms I'm going to probably, just to keep distinct, I'm going to draw in a roughly bluish color. So the important thing is that her hands are down here. So I'm gonna make sure I get one hand, like, kind of like there-ish. I think it's a good size. I don't need to worry about the hand posing just yet, but I do need to make sure that the size and shape are right. And it looks a little large. I think I'll actually just, to start with, just do a little mitten hand, just so we can get a good idea of size and stuff like that. So the mitten hand, and then a normal arm. So that'll be going something like... That's the general way that the arm would pose. But I think I'm actually just going to real quick look up a reference for someone sitting with hands in the lap. Person sitting with hands in lap pose. Let's see here. So I think I'm going to actually just use this here, turn the transparency down, put that underneath both of these layers, select the layer, transform, and mirror horizontally, and then just kind of match this up to the general position that she is in. So I might need to widen the shoulders a bit because she's got a broader build. Something about like that. So the arms are gonna be kind of like... Let's give that a try of just making the arms be down a bit. Like, I need to turn the transparency up. Because when they're like that... I think I might actually need to stretch the rest of her torso out some more. So, I'm going to take my selector here and just select every bit here. And I am going to do some movement and adjusting here. Give her that wider build that I'm going for. And then I'm gonna have to shorten the legs up after I do this. But something a bit like that. Maybe a little bit like that looks better. Because let's see, because this person's legs are off that way and that way. It won't matter too much, just as long as I get the posing looking, you know, decent. But something like that. Because I do want, Jules to be kind of leaning back a bit. So something a little bit more like that. And then let's move those legs and readjust those a bit. Because the legs don't look quite right. So let's put them a little higher up, like that, maybe? Bring them in a bit. Again, it doesn't have to be anything too pretty just yet, but a bit more like that is, I think, more proportionate. Let's actually turn the transparency up here. Yeah, so this person's legs in the reference are sitting off towards the left like that. But I think I'm gonna keep Jules' legs like I've got them now. I'm not the best at proportions, but it's an honest effort, so, like, I'm doing my best. And then I will get the arms are gonna come down a bit like something like not quite that. A little bit like that. My style, I tend to make the arms a little on the thicker side. And then I think I will actually pretty much just copy the hand poses that's here. So, like, one finger like that. One finger like that. One that's basically just like that. One that's basically just like that. One that's just like that. And then just give that general outline. And I'm obviously going to make the fingers thicker because that's how I do my style, and also probably because she has paws. But something like that, that. Again, my style isn't realistic hands, so I'm going to go back and change this a lot. But that with the left hand on top of the right is going to make for a very good pose, I think. Something just like that. And that one's underneath, just like this. And then the rest of this arm goes behind, kind of like I actually might have to adjust this a bit because, like I said, she's got a bigger figure, so... It's gonna have to go a bit out like this. Something out further off this way, a bit like that. And then the elbow's right about there. So that's where it's gonna turn up and go like that. I'm gonna have to probably shorten up this side a little bit, because that looks way too thick. So something like that. And then I basically just redrew the same fucking thing again. But she is going to have a hoodie on, so the arms are going to look larger anyways. But I do think this arm does look too thick right now. Plus, it's covered up by the chest right about here. So, I think the way to remedy that is to go select this, and then just do a little bit of this to kind of readjust the proportions. And again, none of this is final lines, so this is going to change a lot. But I know I've got this too wide, because if I turn off this and this, the arms just do not look right. I'm sure it'll look better when I get the hoodie drawn over, so I'm not going to bother too much with it right now, but I have never been good at drawing arms or hands. So let's just get rid of those lower layers. And then let's do another go-over of this, of better lines, is what I'm going to call this layer. And then, so we're going to go over the spots that I have changed, that being starting here on the chest. We're going to go make that look just better in general. Something a bit more like that is pretty good. And then because we've got more of an idea of where the stomach sits now, I can do the actual physics of that a little bit better. Nah, not quite like that. Something a little bit like that. And then I'm not going to really detail what's underneath the crop top too much, because it's underneath, or not the crop top, the hoodie. So I'm just going to kind of leave it the general shape, just so I can get the dynamics of the arms and stuff down good. And then right about here on both sides is where that crop top is going to sit. So I'm going to just get that sketched in. So something a little bit like that. And just make it apparent that there's a little bit of wrinkle in the fabric there, where it sits on the stomach. And then detail the stomach a little more, because that's going to be visible still. And then, yeah, crop top goes down to about there, so that's pretty good. The belt will probably be about here. I do need to adjust those legs a bit more in this layer, so I'm probably going to just kind of widen the legs on the underneath layer real quick here, just so I can get a better idea of the proportions that I've got going now. Something a little bit more like that is more realistic. Now that I've got that is when I can go up here, and I can do the... I think actually the head looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this back to 100% opacity and just take the head from this layer. Control X, Control V, merge that onto the better lines layer, and just turn this back down to lower opacity. Now that I've got that, I've got to make sure I can get the proportions here on the legs good. And then I'm not going to worry about the shoes yet, so I'm just going to let the legs kind of cut off for now. We'll see if I bother with those. I might just cut it off at a certain point, but for now, though, it does look pretty good. I just gotta make sure that I get the leg proportions pretty realistic here. I'm not sure how long this art's actually gonna take me, because I do want to make it pretty detailed, so this might be the only thing we work on this stream. And I'm pretty determined to finish it, because my friend did some really good work for me for, Hold on, there we go. My friend did some pretty good work for me for the, art that she did of my character, so I want to make sure mine of hers looks just as good. And we're going to turn this down, we're going to delete that layer. So we've got the better lines layer. Let's just remove the stool for now. And then let's go make a better arms layer. On the better arms layer is where we're going to actually readjust the proportions of the arms here, just so they work better. A little bit more like that would probably be realistic. And then underneath here is going to be where those fingers go. So something like that, like that, like that, like that. And then the thumb is like that. All connecting to the actual hand. Wait, no, that's not the thumb, that's the pinky on the outside. So would that mean... No, because that's her right hand. So the thumb would be here. So I'm actually just going to readjust this a little bit, so that it's like that. Because that just did not look right the first time around. So that's going to be that arm and that hand. It's going to be something like that. Maybe a little bit different, but... up here, I think I actually have to readjust these better lines, because that looks too high up for the shoulder. So that is going to go out to probably more like about there. Nah, that's the wrong layer. So right about here. Something like that. And then her arms are not going to be too thick this time. They are obviously going to be somewhat thick, but nothing as much as I drew them the first time. Because that was just a mistake. So something more like that. And then out into her hand, which I will draw on top of the other hand later. But I do think that does look like an actually pretty good pose so far. So I think I'm going to hide the arms layer, turn these layers back up to 100, and I'm going to start working on getting stuff erased where it would be reasonably covered up, such as right over here. That is all going to be covered up, I know that for sure. This all is going to be covered up by arm, down to probably about there. I don't know past that what's going to be covered up, but I do know I am going to make a layer for the hoodie. Let's do that. And then I will draw in red, or blue, just to make sure that I don't cover up too much with this. So the hoodie goes something a bit like It looks like it leaves just a little bit in the middle. So I'm thinking it'll probably go something like... a little bit like that, probably. And then a little bit like this, up and over the side here. Something a bit like that. And then it does look like it hangs down a little bit. So that's going to hang down underneath the hands down to, like, probably about here-ish. And then because it is a hoodie, it's going to kind of sit a little bit like that. That looks about right for where that sits. And then because this one's just sitting straight on her leg, it's going to sit a little bit more like that. Something like that. And then, I don't mind having that arm look a bit thicker because of the hoodie sleeve, but I do have to make sure it actually looks like it's because of the hoodie sleeve. So first things first is going to be actually drawing that hood behind her head here. So that's going to be mostly visible on that side, a little bit on this. Something like that. That's pretty good for the actual hood itself. Because, I mean, that does look like a hood, at least to me. So I'm gonna just interpret that as a hood. If it's not a hoodie, then it's an alternate outfit, I guess. But the pockets on the hoodies are gonna be right here and right here. But they are going to be beneath the arms, so they don't matter too much. And then we are going to draw the actual sleeve of this thing, which is going to be a little bit puffier than the actual arm. So I'm going to just kind of do some little stuff like that. Just like down to there, I think, is good. Because it does look like the ends of her sleeves have a kind of different pattern to them. So I'm going to make sure that that gets actually portrayed accurately. So it's going to be something like... that is going to be how the sleeve ends. And then because it's a hoodie sleeve, it might be a little bit fluffy there. Go back like that a bit. And then it'll just be, you know, around there. Because that's where her stomach meets that. And then I'm going to make the chest be less visible on the actual hoodie, because it's a hoodie. So I'm going to probably just make it a little bit more like that is good. Same thing on the other side. So let's just go for something a little like that, and then start trimming it down just so it looks a little less prominent because it's in a looser fitting piece of clothing. So something a little bit like that. Let me turn off the better lines. Yeah. That looks pretty good. There we go. Turn the better arms back on. This is just going to kind of just be like that, because that's where these two fabrics are going to meet. And those two fabrics, in this case, are going to be the sleeve of the hoodie, which will go down to, like, here once again. And then it's going to go, you know, a little funky like this, where it's kind of a little wrinkly looking. And then let's just erase that. Erase that. Just so we can differentiate what's what here. And then this is going to flatten out on top of the shoulders there. And then I think for the rest of the arm, I'll actually just leave it as it is, because it already looks very thick. So if I just turn off the better arms layer, that does look a lot better. So I'm going to go through the Better Arms layer now, and I'm going to start... Nope, wrong layer. I'm going to start just erasing all the stuff that is inside of the hoodie. So this one's going to cut off right about there-ish. That can be removed. I don't remember how much of this is in the Better Arms layer, but that can be removed down to about there. All that can be cut out. And then I can start doing the same on the better lines. So anywhere there's stuff like this, it is going to just be removed. Because it is underneath the hoodie. And the hoodie obscures a lot of details. So, doing it like that will make it so that everything is kind of matching up, if you get what I mean. I'm going to actually move this up a little bit, just to make it more apparent that it's like something that's a different fabric than the rest. So something a little bit like that. And then more erasing on the better lines layer. This is looking a lot better now that I've got the hoodie. And then, just like that, erase some more of the better arms layer, because I do want to draw right up here. Is where this is going to come down. And then there's going to be, you know, the little circlets for readjusting the hood are like there and there. So something like that is good. This is actually turning out really good. I'm kind of surprised at how well I did with the posing on this. So I think since we've got that all good, I can just set my fill tool here and turn all of this blue to black. And then I could just merge that with the better lines. So that now we've got the arms still separate. Although I am going to just take all the parts of the better arms that I need, which is all of this. I'm going to Control X, Control V, paste that, and put that with the better lines. So, now all that remains of better arms is this stuff here, which I will do once I turn the opacity down on there. So the better arms layer, first of all, I'm going to make a new layer for the top hand, if I can spell. And then this is going to be probably just red in color. And then turn off the better arms layer for now. And then just start working on drawing out the fingers for this. Something like that, probably. And then a little bit more like that, because I do want her to have kinda humanoid hands. But that's a pretty good balance between humanoid and anthropomorphic, I think. So something a little bit like that for the hands. Although I do think a cute detail to add could be if I put little claws on the end of the fingers, because she is a fox. So, giving her little claws like that is cute, I think. I can turn off the arms layer, turn back on the better arms. Gonna do some erasing of this stuff. And then anything that's still exposed is the stuff that I'm going to draw now. So all of that is going to become more hand. More hand, more hand. Just like that. Get rid of all the black stuff underneath. Besides that part needs to stay. Just like that. Just like that, probably. Just a bit more like that. There we go. That should be good for those proportions. And then I just gotta erase the rest of the black stuff from underneath here, which will just take me a second. Get this looking right again. There we go. So there we go for the hands. And then once I turn these back up to 100, I can put the arm and the hand below the better lines. Because then when I do this, it's a lot easier to go on the better lines layer, and then just start erasing stuff where the hands are. So first things first, we're going to erase where that top hand is. So that's going to be something like that. A little bit more like this on that arm. What is this, some kind of Delta rune? My friend assembled this playlist. This is a pretty peak playlist, I gotta say. Let's do some erasing here. Let's do that. Just do some erasing straight across here. Just leave that like that. Get rid of that. And then this is all going to be sleeved despite how it looks right now. So I'm going to turn this once again into... Oh boy. Wrong layer. Do that. Do that. And then, on the better lines layer, I can clearly differentiate that this is where that other texture is going to be. That looks pretty damn good. I'm going to delete the arms layer. I'm going to merge these three layers all together. And I'm just going to call this Clean Line Art. Save my work. Okay, and there's a few larger details we've still got to do, such as, first things first, we've got to clean up the legs a little bit here. Not so many scratchy lines. That looks a lot better. Get rid of this. And then I'm gonna just say she's wearing, like, boots, just for the sake of easiness. So I'm gonna go put this here, say boots, put that below the clean line art layer, just so I know I'm not overlapping it by accident. And then I think the boots are gonna go something just like that one on that leg, and like this on that one. So it's gonna be a little bit like that on that one, and like this on this one, I guess. I don't know. It looks a little bit rough right now, but that's okay. So let's go above that layer, and I think I want to make them like combat boot style. So I'm gonna give them a, like, you know, little something like that, something like this, something like this, and then the rest of the boot's just gonna go around the back like that. actually turn that opacity down further, just so we can make sure that we get all of this looking pretty decent. Because that's going to come down like this. I have never been the greatest at drawing shoes, but that's okay. Because these are probably going to be covered up by the drum set itself anyways, so it doesn't matter a whole lot. But that looks pretty damn good for the boot that I'm going for. And then this one, same deal. I'm gonna actually move these above the clean line art layer, just so I can see them better. Like how I can now see, I've got to extend that over further like that. And I've got to readjust that, so it's more like here. Because that's where the shoelaces and stuff are going to be. So that's going to go up, big and up like that. And then we got this. Something like that. And then just a little bit more like that is good. And then just so we can see that the sole of it is pretty thick. That looks pretty good. That's about as good as I can get it. So that's going to be our boots. I'm just going to erase underneath there, just to get rid of all that clutter. Turn that line art to black as well, and then merge that onto the clean line art layer. So, just gonna check my messages real quick. Make sure everything is all good. It is looking like it is. So, I'm going to just keep on working then. Since she's got ripped jeans on, jeans are usually tighter, so I'm just going to leave these as they are. I do also need to find a place for her tail, so I'm going to make another layer here. Set the color to red, swap over to that. And then, so her back and spine are running like this, so the tail should probably run something like that, I want to say. So, on the layer above that, I'm going to swap back over to here, and she has a very fluffy tail. So I'm gonna go and just kinda do some bullshit. Same way I usually draw fur. I just draw some fluffy bullshit and hope that it looks good. And I think I have succeeded, because that does look pretty damn good. Yeah, that's some pretty good fluffy bullshit, if I say so myself. I'm going to keep the tail layer down here, just so it is below the line art. Alright, I will get up, I will stretch real quick. Oh. Oh my goodness. Ugh. Alright, I have gotten up, walked around for a second to stretch, so I am now back. So, next things next, I think we should do a little more detailing in the ears here, because she does have fluffy ears, so I'm just going to do the usual thing I do, where I go like that, and then I just kind of go do some fluffy bullshit. I'm good at doing fluffy bullshit. There we go, fluffy bullshit complete. And then she does have longer hair in the back. It does look like it goes out and over the hood a little bit, so I'm going to go and do that. I'm going to just make it... There's a lot of fluffy bullshit when I draw furry characters, so this is going to go like that. I think I will actually draw a little bit of it sitting over the top of the hood here. Something like this. That looks pretty good, I'd say. And we've got a color palette right there ready for us. And then I do think I'll just make the jewelry... I'm going to ask my friend before I continue, what type of piercings does she have? Let's see here. I'll wait for a response because coloring is going to come in a bit, not right now. But in the meantime, we're going to do a little bit more silver. Okay, we got our answer. So I will draw the piercings in with silver, so I am going to just make a note on the reference sheet here of that these are silver. And then we are going to get back to finishing up what few small details are still left. So let's take a look and compare our line art with the reference sheet. We've got the long hair. We've got the tail. I will make the rips in the jeans right here. So I think the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to just make a bunch of lines like this. Something like that. Do that. That looks pretty good. And then, you know, just make a few more spots that look also worn out. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. Because when you distress fabric like this, it's kind of unpredictable what it'll look like. So something like that with a few more lines scattered about looks pretty good. And then she does have pockets on the side, so I'm just going to make sure I get those drawn in. Something like that. And neither of her eyes are actually showing, so I don't have to worry too much about that. Her shoes are just kind of black, so I'll take some creative liberty. I'll make them like dark gray hiking boot style things. So I think I'll just leave it at that for the line art. And then now I think I can actually start... Yeah, because her belt wouldn't even be visible here, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. Do a little more cleaning up of something I just noticed. With her hoodie there. That looks pretty good. Oh god, I need to sneeze. Oh, excuse me. Okay. So let's remove the... Not remove, but let's hide the stool layer. And then let's start on the body coloring. So first things first, we're going to just start off by mass filling things with orange. Because she's a fox, so I color picked that from her palette. We're gonna start by just filling in all these little spots with that orange, and we are going to shade this piece, but that will be later. So let's do orange, 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 orange. Her neck is also orange, so just like that. Leave that as it is. The ears are going to be a bit of a special case, because I'm going to have to draw them kind of popping out of the hat. So I'm going to kind of just go, like, make them like that. Just a bit more like this. Fill in those empty spaces so it doesn't fill in the entire thing. Just like that, you've got the ears sticking out of the hat. And then her hands do look like they have fingerless gloves on them, but because fingerless gloves are tight, I don't really have to worry too much about that right now. I don't have to draw the line art for those because they're just black anyways. So they're going to be on there, but they're just going to be flat color black. And then the rips in her jeans show orange fur underneath, so that's what I'm going to do. So orange fur, lots of orange. So let's just fill all these little spots with that color. And then her tail is also largely orange, but we're going to color the tail on a separate layer, so that's going to stay there for now. Her stomach is actually a kind of more tan color, so I'm going to fill that in now. And then I am going to start on detailing the rest of her body's color, starting with this bit of fluff here sticking up from her shirt. So that's going to be something a little bit like, probably a bit like this in shape, I would imagine. So let's do this. Scribble the rest of this in. That looks about accurate. And then she's got, looks like mostly her lower face is kind of a tan color. So I'm going to go kind of something like this, where it starts at her nose and just kind of goes like this, downwards a bit. And then it looks like the side fluff of her face is also mostly tan. So I'm going to have it kind of fading out to the side here. Just like that. Just like that. Looks awesome. That's pretty good. The hair on the back is orange, so I don't have to do anything with that. The inside of her ears, though, is tan, so I'm going to do that on that fluff right there. Her nose looks like it's just black, but I'm going to go for a more realistic kind of darker gray-brown color like that. Her teeth, I'm just going to color pick. I'm pretty sure they're white, but I'd much prefer color picking and getting it right. Let's see, what do we color next here? Because neither of her eyes are showing, so that's not a worry. So let's color in her hoodie. So it's going to be this bluish color here, and that's the hood back there. The hood actually does look a bit darker, so I am going to make that color change happen right about here. And then it's going to do a little bit of that. That looks nice. Color that in. That looks pretty good. And then this color is the color of her crop top. And I believe that's the same color as over here on the sleeves, but I color picked again just to make sure. I'll use the same color from her teeth. Oh, I missed a spot. There we go. I'll use the same color from her teeth for the claws. Even though claws are usually a little bit of a different color from teeth, it's still, it just works. And they're small anyways, like the claws have 1 pixel of color in them. So I'm not too worried about that. Let's start on the pants here. Let's just make sure we get everything filled in. Just like that. Oh, we missed a spot on the hoodie. And we also missed a spot over here on the hoodie. So let's do that. These are the colors of where her pockets are. So I'm gonna just do a little bit of this. And that other pocket is not visible, so I'm not going to bother with that. Her belt will not be visible either because of her stomach in the way and the hands in the way. So I'm going to leave that as it is. I'm going to readjust some of this coloring after I fix that. I'm going to readjust this coloring to kind of taper off a bit like this. I think that makes it look nice. Oop. Nope. Wrong tool. There we go. So let's do a little bit of something like this. And then the other side's going to do the same thing and end up right about there. Perfect. And I think I'll actually just remove... I'll remove these and I will draw them in myself. So let's just do this. That looks pretty good. Can't forget to fill in between her legs there. Okay, now that I've got that, I think I will actually go with a... I'll use the dark brown of her belt for the base of her shoes here. So something a little bit like that. And then the part where the laces is gonna be darker, like that. And then the soles will be a bit lighter in color. So they're gonna be something a bit like this. Just like that, that works pretty well. The beanie is a dark gray on the band. And then a lighter gray on the actual beanie itself. So a bit like this. This is actually turning out really good. I really like the color scheme for her. Like, they're kind of... The blue of their coat or hoodie matching with the orange of their, like, body works really well, I think. So... I think next step will be an added details layer. So the added details are going to be things like the shoelaces and piercings and stuff. So I'm just going to... For the shoelaces, I'm just going to do something simple like have them just sitting in, you know, a double knot or whatever, sitting off to the sides like this. And then laced up all the way. Just like that. It doesn't matter too much. Hopefully nobody's looking too close at the shoelaces, because I will cry if someone does. So it's just going to be like that again. Just like that is perfect. The shoelaces don't even have to be too visible because they're not meant to be. I'm gonna add some more detailing to the boots here, like giving the front of them a different color and the back of them a different color as well. So I'm gonna use this, make a bit of a more tan color for the front, which is all gonna be just like that. This is all going to be just like this. That looks pretty good, and then I'm going to do the same kind of thing here at the back, but I'm going to make it darker. So something a little bit like that looks good. That's awesome. Alright. Let's see, what other details can I add? So the piercings are up next. So the piercings are going to be silver, so I'm going to just get this kind of gray color. They don't really have any color to them. It looks like 2 piercings on each ear that are rings, so I'm going to go and just kind of... do something like... like that is good, I would say. Actually, no, wrong side. I'm gonna put them just like this, and just like this. So those are gonna be those two piercings. The other two are gonna be hardly visible. So I'm just gonna put them like that, and like that is pretty good, I'd say. And then I can start erasing them to make sure that they don't overlap too much with the actual ears. Such as getting that part to disappear. Flattening that. Getting that like that. Those look pretty good. They're like a little big, but I don't really care too much. Let's see. I'm gonna ask her. I'm gonna ask if I can experiment with giving her some more piercings, because I think that would be pretty cool. So I'm not sure how the tail piercings work, because the tail itself, the actual tail is like, oh, I'm still on erase mode. The actual tail is like just this bit in the middle. So I don't know what to do about that. I also don't know how I managed to color the tail like that. So let's erase that. Alright, so basically I just got the word of, like, yeah, basically do whatever, creative freedom. So, I'm gonna give her more piercings, because I think that would be fun. So, first things first, she's gonna get a nose piercing here. Because I think that would look pretty fucking awesome. I'm also gonna give her some snake bite piercings on her lower lip right there. So I'm gonna give her one. I think there is probably a good spot for it. That works well. I think I will also have her ears be studded. So I'm gonna have there be a big hole in the ear right there, and then I'm gonna look up the bisexual pride flag colors. The hex code specifically, just so I can get the colors down. So let's get the pink is going to be this hex code. Let me just make sure before I do this. Okay, yes, bisexual. So I'm going to select inside of here, color that all of the bisexual pink. The middle stripe, which is that kind of purpley color, is going to be just like that. Maybe a little bit less. Probably just want it to be those two. That, just like that. Get the blue. Put the blue in. And then with the blue, I can do that. And there we go. She's got some cool little bi-pride flag studs in her ears. I really like the piercings that I gave her. I think I will also give her a... Actually, I don't even know. How does a navel piercing look? Because I think a navel piercing would be cool. Okay, so a navel piercing, it can just go through the top, like right about there. And it can also come out the bottom about there. So I'm going to just give her a navel piercing because I think it'd be good. I think it works really well for her. And then I think I will not do the tail piercings because I just cannot see how those would physically stay on. Let's do the tail coloring. So the tail is orange for the most part, but the tail is going to be... Dude, why? How did I manage to get all of this to turn blue? I am stupid. Okay, there we go. fix that. So the tail is mostly orange, so I'm going to just go over all of it once with the orange. So let's do this. Get that drawn a little further. Something like that is good. Do a little of that. And then make sure I fill in all the gaps. Just to make sure none of the color will escape when I fill it in. So something like that is good, I would say. That looks pretty good for the tail's base color. And then inside of that, I'm going to draw the tip being a different color, because that's what it shows on there, so... The tip is a kind of... same kind of cream color as the rest. Yes, Jules. Yes, I am drawing Jules, Ellie's OC, because she attacked me on Artfight, so I am getting back at her. Here's what I've got so far. Ellie gave me creative liberty so I can draw a few more details of my own in there, such as nose piercing, lower lip piercing, a bi-pride flag stud in the ear, navel piercing, and I'm not doing the tail piercings because I don't know how those would physically stay on, so those aren't going to be there. And then I'm going to draw the fingerless gloves in just a second here. So... I'll leave the tail coloring as it is for now. I think I will make the fingerless gloves the same very, very dark gray as the pants. And then I'll make the gloves extend to, like, right about there, probably, on all the fingers is good. But yeah, I just went up, like, in Ellie's DMs, I was like, hey, which of your characters do you think deserves more art? And she said Jules was one of them, so... I took a look around on her profile, I was like, yeah, you know what, Jules looks pretty conducive to my art style, so here we go. So this is where we are today now. So I think that looks pretty good for those fingerless gloves. I think she's looking really fucking cool, honestly. Dripped the fuck out, honestly. So I think I've got pretty much all the key details done. Let me just go through with some green here, just to check off. So I've got the beanie done. Oh, I should not be doing it on this layer. I've got the beanie all done. Got the big hair swoop. Got the big ol' ears. Got the piercings. The eyes are just not shown, so I'm not worried about that. I've got the fluff and the color difference. I've got the sleeve details, I've got the color, got the crop top, got her neck, got the fingerless gloves, the pockets, the tears, the pants. I've got the tail, the tip of the tail. Took some creative liberty on the boots, but I've got those. I've got the little teeth sticking out. So I think that literally does cover every single major detail of hers. So I think I am good to take the reference off of here. I am going to crop this down further. I do not know how to draw a drum kit, so what I'm probably gonna do here is I'm going to look around for a transparent image of a real drum kit, and then I'm gonna blur it since it's gonna be in the foreground. So I'm gonna find one from a front view. Drum kit, front view. Find one that looks like it would fit her style. Make sure I'm searching transparent. Yeah, that looks like some shit. Nope, that's not even facing the right way. Am I stupid? I am. That one's got a huge watermark over it. Oh, wait, this one's from the front. Ooh, 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 that one looks like it could definitely fit her. So let's paste that in. Scale that down to an appropriate size. because she is using a drum kit because she's the drummer. So, scaling it down to something a little bit more like... probably a bit more like that is probably a good position to have it in. And then I'll make a version for Ellie where you can actually see behind the fucking drum kit. But for now, this is gonna be good. And then I'm going to just kind of fucking... I did not mean to minimize Krita. There we go. Let's go Gaussian blur that, just so it's in the foreground like that. And then you can clearly see Jules in the back still. Let's just hide that. I'll just name that drum kit so you can see it better. I'm also not going to bother drawing a stool for her to sit on, so I'm just going to draw, like, find a drummer stool, transparent, because I'm not too concerned about drawing the fucking stool she's sitting on, because it's just really not a crucial detail. So if I use a real stool, I don't really give a shit. Just so it looks like she's actually sitting on something, just like that. Stool. So combined, yeah, you can pretty much tell she's sitting on a drum kit. At a drum kit, sorry. And then the background, what do I want to do for the background? Ooh, wait, oh, I could build a little concert venue in Minecraft. I think that would be fun. Okay, I'm gonna pause the music. I am going to launch up Minecraft, and we are going to build ourselves a little, concert venue in Minecraft. So let's just find myself I think, probably my Funny Fuckers server mod pack would, no, maybe this one would probably be best, yeah. So let's update those mods, and then I'm going to drop into Minecraft and then change stream to that for a little bit. So I'm not really going to bother with changing the title of the stream and stuff. But I am going to swap my actual, like, the shit you guys are seeing is going to be swapped over to Minecraft once it launches. Just so we can build ourselves a fun little... Let's turn our music volume up. And then game capture, let's switch that to our Minecraft capture. We're just gonna go creative mode. We're gonna go world type, super flat, building, stuff, peaceful difficulty. We're gonna go game rules and turn mob spawning off just to make sure. Off, 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 off. So nothing spawns. It is a super flat world, just like that. So let's create that. I might still have my CRT shader on, I don't remember. Oh, I forgot to generate structures. That's not too big of a deal. I don't give a shit. Let's just go, like, right over here probably is a good spot. Now let's get to building ourselves a fun little concert venue, shall we? So, I think Mangrove will be fun to make this out of. So let's build this out of mangrove logs to start with. I think the general thing I want to go for is I want to have, like... You know, obviously a big stage. So something kinda like that shape-ish is probably pretty good for a stage. I think, yeah, mangrove fences are probably the best for adding the detailing here, but let's extend this by one on each side just so it's like this, because then I can go in the middle here, add all these trapdoors for detailing. Actually, no, shelves might be better. mangrove shelf. Just like that. That looks pretty damn good. And then right here on the sides, I almost just tried to hit fucking Control-Z. Right here on the sides, we're probably gonna have right in out a little bit in front of the stage, like right off to the corners here, is probably where we're gonna have the roof being held up. Something like that probably is pretty good. Do that. That looks pretty good. I'm gonna do slabs and stairs here. Hold on, I gotta move my drawing tablet out of the way so I can actually do this more easily. Hold on, drawing tablet. You are going in the drawer for a moment. I said you are going in the drawer. There we go. And then I can move my keyboard back forward. Ah! I accidentally dropped fucking everything. There we go. Okay, so pick that up so it stops tweaking. And then back here, I think we want to use some sort of log. I think spruce logs would be good for this. Just like that. And then, okay, music, you need to calm the fuck down, music. Something like boom, boom, boom. And then something like that. Extend those fences up one higher. And then I think up here at the front, I want to make this more spruce logs, because I think that looks kind of nice. It's a good color contrast, in my opinion. I think I'm actually going to use spruce shelves rather than mangrove, just because the spruce ones match better with the spruce. So something like, no, like that. Something more like that is going to look a lot better. Actually, maybe even, let's just look up, I think dark oak shelves. Let's try these. Those match the color of the wood a lot better, so let's go with these. Something like that is good. That is good. No, stop. Stop. And this is all because I don't like making backgrounds because I'm not the best at it. So let's put actually some spruce doors back here. Those are going to be just for decoration. You know what? No, I'm actually going to make them double wide just so they're like, you know, backstage access type doors. And then up here, I think I will make those blocks just be more stripped mangrove. And then I will make, up in the corners here, I will make this be glowstone. More stripped mangrove wood. I feel like I'm cooking, but I don't know if I'm really cooking, is the thing. Like, it feels like it's looking cool, but I don't know if it is. If anyone has any ideas, let me know. But I do think giving it structural support over the top here would look nice. Something like that looks good, I think. And like that. bit like that. I think that looks nice. That does look pretty nice, actually. And I think I might do that to connect these. No. So something a little bit like this. This is a good start to a stage. Let's see here. What could be nice to add? I think maybe some checker texture to the floor could be good. So maybe mangrove logs and acacia logs, maybe? Let's try it. Worst that happens is it doesn't look nice and I change it out for another pattern. But I do think this is a unique set of colors. So I think the silver with the brown makes this look really cool. Ooh, I actually really like that. So let's keep that as it is. And then over the top of this, I think we're probably going to make a ceiling out of probably just wool to make it look like it's, like, you know, a big concert venue covering. You know, like it's an outdoor music festival or something like that. So you've got the kind of shoddy coverings to the outside. So just like this. That looks nice. And then that looks nice, I think. I think this actually does look pretty nice, because then you got a little bit of open sky peeking through in the back there. And then I can just do this on both sides. I'm kind of liking this. So I think I might put some lanterns on probably partially oxidized copper chains, and then copper lanterns too would probably be best. So weathered and exposed. So let's go just put some of these around. Like one there. Probably one there. And then I think for some, like, extra cool lighting around the sides, I will alternate normal and soul lanterns. So, like, normal lantern, soul lantern, and then a normal lantern. Normal, soul, and then normal. I actually really like the look of this kind of venue. And I think I'll actually add some more of these. So I will put another one, like, right in front of the light there. Another one right here. Another hanging from right over there. I think that looks cool. I mean, it definitely makes it look really cozy. And then I'm going to get... Oh, wait, what am I doing? I could just put down the path blocks myself. So I could just... kind of make an area that you could very clearly tell people have been jumping around in front of the stage and shit. This like, half of this is probably not even going to be visible in the actual art. But that's okay. Because, like, the POV of the art is from, like... Let me reopen Krita. It's, like, right up close to her. So you're hardly going to be able to see any of this. But I think... I actually want to replace this wood with trap doors. Not quite like that. Wrong way. So let's replace these with trapdoors. No, not like that. Not quite. That looks nice. And then let me see, are there any good doors? Because the mangrove door doesn't have holes in it. The acacia door does. The copper doors do. So let's just do a little comparison here between the 3 or 4 types of copper doors and see what looks best with this wood. Let me go time set day again. So let's go just compare these types of... Time set noon, I guess that's probably the best we're gonna get. So let's compare door, 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 and door. I do think the orange, the normal copper door probably looks the best, so I'm going to take these out, and I'm going to put behind there these copper doors. And then I'm going to take some saplings, just so I can grow some interesting looking trees back behind the venue. So I think the closest one is probably just going to be a dark oak. Something like that. Whoops. Because the idea is that this is probably, like, you know, one of those concert venues, where there's, like, you know, a huge forest surrounding you and you're just out here fucking partying. So I think this is probably a good way to do it. Let's see how this looks now from inside the venue. Yeah, you can't even tell that that's super flat behind there anymore, especially since I think looking at the art with the drum kit and stuff, you're probably going to have the POV of about right here, I think. And you're only really going to see all this. So, I think I'm going to just real quick compare with the art here, because she's sitting facing that way. The drum kit's right about there. So I think right about there. And then I'm going to go into chat. I'm going to open up that image. And then we are good on the Minecraft front, at least for now. And then let me find this in File Explorer. Go into the background here. Oh, I need to... Hold on. I need to change back to Krita. That might be good. Change back to Krita. Make sure this actually works. Looks like it does. So let's copy this picture and paste it into the background. And then we might actually need to do a little bit of scaling for this thing. Having her be right about there at the back is probably going to be good. So something like right about there. And I know she's not a Minecraft OC, but it's going to look very nice, I think, just to have some semblance of a background. Now that we've got a background, we are going to temporarily take away the drum kit and the stool here. And then we are going to do our shading. So, I'm going to use the tip that I learned for shading here, which is, first of all, to start with just a 50% value covering the entire body, basically. So we're going to start with just this, select, invert selection, and on the shading layer, we are just going to fill in literally that entire thing. And then, since we've got that, what we're going to do now is anywhere that we want lighter stuff, I'm going to do or darker stuff, we're going to be doing a 30% value. So now I've got this blocked out. I can get my drawing tablet back out of my drawer. And then I can just start figuring out, so the sources of lighting are kind of all over the place here. But I do know the dark spots are going to definitely be, like, underneath right here probably is going to be a darker spot. Just a little bit darker. Oh, I need to turn my music back on. There we go. So right under here is going to be a darker spot. Definitely this spot on her neck is going to be darker. This spot of her hood is going to be pretty dark. I definitely got to add some shadows from the hair here. Something a bit like this. That looks good. I like that. And then shadow from the beanie is going to be something a little bit like that. I kind of like overshade in my art, so I don't really care too much about how perfect it looks. Like, if it's a little bit out of line with the light source, who gives a fuck? So it's gonna be kind of like that is good. A little bit of the inside of the ear is gonna be dark, but not a whole lot of it. So something a little bit like that, probably. Definitely an area behind the ear. So something like that will probably be a bit more like that. Just like that. Do a little bit of this just to add some shading to the beanie. And then do a little bit of shading to the underside of the hair here, to some of the parts that might be a little darker. And then we can start on the other parts here, like shading the underside of the chest is important. And then because of how it tapers off here, just like that probably is pretty good. A little bit like this. And then definitely some over here, over the top of the stomach is good. So just like that. Do that, get this drawn in there. Just like that. I think that looks pretty good for that side. This side's gonna be a lot more lit up, so only really the stuff like underneath there. A little bit there. A little bit on the underside of the chest here, but nothing too much. Just because of the angle the light's coming in, I think I actually need to adjust. Oh, not erase, just draw like this. And then something like that probably is about all there's going to be on the inside of there with the crop top. That's a little too much. That's good. And then on the looser parts, you can see it a lot more. So like that. Like down to here, that's pretty good. About 1 pixel of that. Further up, probably a lot less. Definitely some on the inside of the arm here. Because that is on the inside of the arm, so it's not going to be exposed to the sunlight as directly. Or not sunlight, the lantern light. So something like that, I think that looks pretty good. do a little bit of shading on the stomach here just for accuracy's sake. And then, since we've got that, next step we'll be doing some of the shading here on the sleeve. Nah, not like that. Just a little bit more like... That's probably about accurate. There's not a whole lot of shading on the hand here because of how the fingers are facing. So probably the tips of the fingers are going to be the parts with the most. So something like that. That looks good. And then we can add some shadow on the hand underneath that's cast by the one above it. This is going to be in shadow because that is between her legs. And then I think I'm just going to go through here and do some, like, you know, very loose, this kind of shading to add texture to the hair without doing too much. That looks pretty good. Let's do this sleeve now. This one's going to definitely have some more texture to it because this one's facing away. So it's probably going to be a little crinkly looking with how it's shaded. So something, start with just that. Oop, forgot to change my fill mode. I said I forgot to change my fill mode. So something like that. Up to about there. That looks good. Let's do that. That looks pretty damn nice there. Most of her leg here is probably going to be... The lightest spot on her leg is definitely going to be the spot that's like... right about here, probably, because obviously the underside of the thigh is going to be shaded. But for the most part, her leg will be exposed to the light from this direction. But there will be noticeable shadow in some areas of it, such as there. And then let's just do a little bit of that. That looks pretty good for the leg. This one's gonna have some more significant shading, like that probably is pretty good. I don't care how consistent I'm really being with this. It just has to kind of look pretty. So that's going to be shaded as well. So is that. There's going to be a few spots of minimal shading on the bottom of the sleeve here. That looks pretty damn good. So let's shade in the shoe. So something a lot like that is probably going to be good, but I need to readjust that a bit there. So something a bit like this. And then around the front like that. That looks good. Shade in that, shade in this. You're hardly gonna be able to see the shoes, but like, who gives a fuck? Those are gonna be pretty damn shaded. Whoa, what happened there? Those are gonna be pretty damn shaded like that. Just like this is probably how that shading is gonna go. A little bit around the edges here, like there. is going to be good. Something like that. I think that's pretty good for the base of her body. And then I think I set it to luminosity. Not quite luminosity, no. Was it overlay? What was it? I saw that... Hold on. Shading... Let me look... let me look at my history real quick. Let me just search shading. I think it was this one. Here it is. So shading value 50%. Set the flat color to overlay. That's what I need to do. So the color goes up here. This goes to overlay on the shading. The shading, it goes to normal. And the body coloring goes to... Yeah, something like that's about good. And then we obviously start to need to start adjusting our shading colors here. Just to make the colors more convincing and stuff. So we're gonna go with this. And we are going to set our darker of the two colors here to a very dark kind of red-orange. So something kind of like... Let's see how that looks first. And then set this to a brighter orange-ish. Something like that. And then I definitely think turn the opacity... not quite a fan. Let's try using a subtler color. So let's go a little bit more this way. Not quite that much. I think that's about perfect. And then using a much deeper color for that. I think I gotta go a little darker. Ooh, that looks good. That looks good. I'm very happy about that for the shading colors. And then I obviously have to shade all the details, like the piercings and stuff. I will do those probably individually. I am first going to go through here to... Do I even have a blur tool? I have never even checked. Does this thing let me blur? I think it does. Blur. Yep, we've got blurring tools right here. So let's go... Let's try the blender schmear first. And then we can go through and do some of the spots like the hair here. Not that much. But the shadows of the hair, I'm definitely going to go through and do like that. Just to give them some more softness. This here definitely needs more softness, because that is on the muzzle, so that's a lot softer of a spot. A lot fuzzier. So something like that. So something a bit like that. That looks good, I think, for that part there. That shadow is going to be just as simple as that one. So is up here. This one's going to be a little bit less soft, but the one in here is going to be like, you know, super hard to tell because it's just so fuzzy inside of the ear there. So it's going to look just something like that. It's really funny what color theory does. When you've got so much red around, the silver all looks blue now. Just because of how much red is in this image. So we're going to have to obviously do some color balancing and whatnot. So we're going to swap back to our main brush here. Do a little something like that. Do a little that. And then on here, so let's go back to our blender. Let's try the textured one. See if this does any better. Because at this scale, it probably won't. But if I do it a little lighter like this, this definitely does look a lot more convincingly like hair texture. And I'm pretty sure I do actually have fur brushes in here somewhere, I think. If I haven't lost them, I don't know. But I think that does look nice for that part. And then I think the other parts can all just be blended with the blender smear like I was doing before. So let's just do that. Oop, not quite like that. So something a little bit like that. And then the same thing on this side. I'm gonna need to do some, you know, cleanup of all that afterwards, but this takes priority first before I clean up all the shading that's bled outside the lines. That looks pretty good for the shading on the stomach. That looks good there. Now this is going to be a lot lighter of shading here, not as much influence. But just like that, probably looks pretty good. A little bit more on the stomach there than on the chest. So something a bit like that, probably. With a little bit seeping downward. That's good. Just like that. I'll obviously have to go back and I'll fill in some other spots that have been a little messed up from all this. But for the most part, we're on the right track. So I don't have to worry too much, but there are some spots I will have to fill in. So first things first, I'm just doing this. So I will definitely have to go through and, like I said, blend, or remove some of the stuff that's bleeding outside the lines and then clean up the rest, but that'll come after I get all this stuff nice and touched up. That looks pretty good, so I'm going to disable the shading layer, and then on the clean line art layer, I'm going to just select the background here, go down to shading, erase, and just delete all that. Go back to my aliased brush here, and then just start repairing a few spots that look a little messed up. What is going on here? Oh, I'm still selected on the outside, that's why. I'm stupid. There we go. So just a little bit of this and this. Going along the edge there just to repair the stuff that's been a little messed up. That looks pretty good. I forgot to blur this part, so I'm going to do that now. That looks pretty good like that. And it looks pretty congruent with the rest, so I'm happy. Oh, I forgot to blur this as well. Let's, once again, go back to the clean line art layer, select the outside, select, invert selection, and then we can do it. So let's do that again. Just like that is perfect. Go back to our main brush. Do some harder line art underneath of more shading, just to make sure we get it all looking good. But it does look like it's looking pretty good here, besides, like, right there. I'll fix that. I think that's pretty damn good. And then I'm just gonna, you know, add... Oh my goodness, not with this brush. I'll probably just choose the pencil brush here. And I will go back and forth across here just to emulate the idea that some of these are like fibers still strung between the pieces. So something a little bit like that probably is good. Same thing over here. Add some more texture to that. And then let's turn that back on, and look at that. That looks really nice. Back to 100%, and then I think the shading, I do think we still need to make a little darker. So let's go filter, map, gradient map. Not foreground to transparent. We want to go foreground to this color right here. So what we want to do is filter, map, gradient map. This is going to be 100% opacity as well. But this is going to be our... Why can't I just select it? Can I... Yes, I can do that. Okay, that's good. So let's make sure we get everything set to make it look nice first. Okay, that just completely didn't do anything. Yeah, I think we just gotta leave it as it is. Maybe there's a way I can darken it. It's been a while since I've had to mess with something colors like this, so let's go layer... I might just have to go layer and then select the outside, invert that selection, and just paint over it all with a bit of darkness just to see how that looks. So let's go like this. Let's go opacity 5%. I actually really like this a lot more. The lighting looks a lot more moody. That's pretty good. And then we'll go back to our pencil, deselect everything. And then on the added details, we're going to do the shading manually. Actually, the way we're going to do this is we're going to make a copy of all the stuff on the added details. All of that. How am I going to do this? I think actually, like, this is probably the best way to do it. Yeah, there we go. And then select, invert selection. And then I can fill all of this in with the light brown color, set the added details to overlay. So I think I'm gonna, yeah, just stick with that. The added details are all on overlay now. And then I'm going to select that color from the shading once again, the dark color from down there. I'm going to start painting that in on the shading here, but I'm also going to paint some darker spots, or lighter spots, sorry. I think I should actually use a softer brush for this, such as this one, and just see how we can do here to make this look more convincingly metallic. Because I think making it look convincingly metallic is the part that's going to be hardest here. And then right here, let's brighten this up a little bit. That's looking really good. Let's just leave the body coloring turned off so we can see the shading we're doing easier. This right here is going to be pretty much dark throughout the entire thing. These are also going to be entirely dark back there. The nose ring is going to be dark towards this side and on the inside here, but is going to be more light once it gets to the outside. So right over here is where it's going to have its bright spot. And I'm going to do the same thing on this piercing over here. The edges are going to be darker. And then it is going to be brighter on the upper right corner. Just like that. And then the other detail is the piercings down here. So we'll add our brighter colors in the upper hand corner here. Once again. The darker will come from the lower left, as per usual. So just like that. And then the shoelaces, I could just be a lot sloppier with, I guess you could say. Just because they're already kind of hard to tell what's going on with. So I could be very sloppy with the shoelaces here and not mind it all too much. Because all they really have is dark spots and neutral spots. They don't really have light. So just like that, I think, would make the added details look really nice. Oh, absolutely. This is looking really comfy cozy so far. And then I'm obviously going to have to adjust the colors of the drum kit and the stool. But I can do that when I get to them. Now, the tail shading is going to go once again below the tail coloring. So let's select everything except for the tail coloring, inverter selection, and then fill in the tail shading with, once again, that nice color. And then once we've got that, we're gonna just start painting a lot more softly on here because this is a tail, so a lot of the light's gonna kind of filter through some parts of it. So, making the underside the darkest, obviously. But something like this, theoretically, should make the most sense. And then let's turn the tail coloring back on, set that to overlay. Yeah, so we're definitely going to have to do some adjustment on the shading here, but this was a good start to it. So let's use the rake tool here and see how this does. Because I think this will make it look a lot more like hair and fur. Ooh, that's good, that's good. Good shit, good shit. That's actually really perfect. That is actually a perfect brush for this. For a large fluffy tail. Because then that means at the end here, you can see it tapers off into a few more distinct lines. And then do a little something like that. Should make it a lot nicer looking. I would say that's pretty damn solid. I think I will darken the background a bit, so I will go back to my... Let's go back to my main brush here, turn that way up, turn that opacity down to about 9% here. Something like that's pretty good. The stool, I'm going to just select everything but it. And then select invert selection. And then just start messing with that until I get something that looks pretty similar to what I have for everything else. Because the stool is not the focal point, so I don't really give too much of a fuck about it. So I think I actually just have to select it with anti-alias to make it not look so weird. So yeah, if I select with anti-aliasing, grow it by... Oh, what the fuck? What happened? Where'd my tool go? There we go. So if I get anti-aliasing, I grow it by about 1 pixel, feather it by about 1 pixel. And then I erase all of that on the outside of the stool. That means everything inside of that selection is stuff that I can take this color to. So let's duplicate the stool. And then down on this one, let's go fill all that in with that brown. Take the dark brown. And then just, you know, fucking do whatever. Doesn't have to look good. Because it's just fucking whatever. Get it looking like that. I don't care too much. I'm gonna do a little blurring just to make it not as obvious. Because that blurring helps to prevent from it looking too weird. That looks fine. And then on the outside of this, select like that, erase that, just so it doesn't look weird. That looks fine, I don't give a shit. The drum kit, I don't know how we're gonna do this. Maybe, no, because that's just gonna make it go down like that. I might have to, with the drum kit here, I think I'll just have to use the gradient overlay. Gradient map that thing. Just, like, make it look, you know, about what you'd expect. So, just take this color, take that one. No, I said take that one. No. Fine, take that. So I think I'm gonna do this, and then copy that, undo, paste that, and then under this, put that. That looks fine. Although I'm going to redo that gradient map once again. Just because I want to make sure I get this looking... You know what? That's fine. And then, with all of that, re-enable the tail coloring. And then I'm going to write some text on here. Let's see here. Wrong brush. So I'm gonna write... Sorry, I'm locked in, I'm writing, so I shut up when I write. There we go. I think that is looking absolutely awesome. I've been going now for 2.5 hours, so that is like perfect fucking timing. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching me draw today. I'm probably gonna be live again tomorrow. But I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of you guys' day. And I will see you guys around again. I think tomorrow I'll probably be drawing some more unless I feel like doing something else. But I'll see you guys around. Bye-bye.